The full and complete development of a country, the welfare of the world, and the cause of peace require the maximum participation of women on equal terms with men in all fields. This is an excerpt from the introductory part of the Harmonized Gender and Development Guidelines, or HGDG. I made a translation of this one in Filipino, and it says here that ang ganap at kumpletong pag-unlad ng isang bansa, ang kapakanan ng daigdig at kapayapaan nito ay nangangailangan ng mataas na pakikilahok ng mga kababaihan, pantay sa mga kalalakihan sa lahat ng larangan. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sunny Cortez, and I'm the God Focal Person of the Schools Division Office of Marikina. I'm also working with other 33 focal persons, both in the elementary and in the secondary level of all our public schools in Marikina. I would like to thank the Lord for giving me this opportunity to work for liberty, to work for freedom, to work for equality, not just of men, but also of women, and also of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. I would like to say thank you also to the management of the Marist School and to other private schools that are inviting us in the division office to give orientations on documents which are related to gender and development. Thank you to the management of Marist School and to their principal, Mr. J.B. Balatbat, for inviting me to be part of your activity today. Good morning also to all the teaching force and the staff of Marist School. Today, this is our attempt to explore on gender-responsive basic education policy. That's DepEd Order 32, series of 2017. So, what do we have in this document, especially in relation to school management, and then of course when it comes to integration of the provisions of this document in the curriculum and even in the assessment. So what are our objectives for our discussion today? So let's start with to have a glimpse of some God-related documents. So I'll be mentioning here what are only some of the God-related documents, because we understand there are many God-related documents. Next is to orient the participants on the salient points of DepEd Order 32, Series 2017 on gender-responsive basic education policy. So only salient points. I understand there will be future discussions and explorations of many documents related to gender and development. Next is to familiarize general gender and development issues and concerns in the education sector. Yes, we have those examples there later on, given by the different institutions and different institutions working with the Department of Education, and then to orient participants on terminologies, or what are the terms being used for gender and development. And then the last one is to explore possible utilization of the provisions of DO 32 Series 2017 in the governance of education, in the teaching and learning processes, and in assessment. So let's begin. What are the general content of this document? So as what I mentioned earlier, I'll be giving you some examples of God-related documents. So this document, this DepEd Order 32 series of 2017, talks about the commitments in the God-related documents. And they have to be enforced unless repealed, amended, or rescinded. And it teaches us also to be gender and culture sensitive as stated in the implementing rules and regulations of Republic Act 10533, the Enhanced Basic Education Act. So, let's begin with the GAD-related documents. I mentioned earlier that I'll be giving you some examples of the GAD-related documents. So we have here the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, or the CEDAW or CEDAW, often described as the International Bill of Rights for Women. It was ratified by 177 countries, including the Philippines. And for a sample of a particular provision in the Philippine Constitution, we could check that on Section 14 of Article 2, which states that it recognizes the role of women in nation building and shall ensure the fundamental equality before the law of women and men. So what else? We also have Republic Act 9710. Sikat ito, no? Lalo na sa ating mga GAD advocates, because this is about Magna Carta of Women. Not for women, Magna Carta of Women, because it's the women who made this document. We also have the Philippine Plan for Gender Responsive Development. We have the Beijing Platform for Action. We have Sustainable Development Goals. We have GAD Strategic Framework and GAD Strategic Plan. What else? We have Women in Development and Nation Building Act. That's Republic Act 7192. And then we also have the Philippine Plan for Gender Responsive Development, or the PPGD. We have Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. That's RA 7877. We have Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act. That's RA 9208. We have Anti-Violence Against Women and Their Children Act. That's RA 9262. And the Laws on Rape. That's RA 8353 and RA 8505. What else? Ito'y bagong-bago. We have Republic Act 11313, known as the Safe Spaces Act. Tinatawag din natin itong Bawal Bastos Act, with the aim of ensuring the equality, security, and safety of every individual in both private and public spaces, including online and in workplaces. So those are only some of the documents that we have in relation to gender and development. And as we understand, gender and development is very comprehensive, no? For us to understand better, we have to really explore, we have to visit, we have to check on those documents for us to have a wider understanding, a wider and a deeper understanding of gender and development, and how we could implement that in our offices, in our schools, and wherever we are. When we talk about the activities of human persons in all fields. I would like to mention that this document is uploaded at Sunrise 75 channel. It's my YouTube channel that I'm using to reach our gender and development focal persons. You can also check on the other documents which were uploaded there for gender and development. My channel is more on education, travel, business, and explorations. But I find it very interesting and very helpful that we make videos for gender and development, dahil sabay-sabay ang invitations po ng mga public and private schools. Kapag nakagawa na tayo ng mga videos at na-upload po doon, pwede po ninyong i-download o pwede ninyong gamitin para sa mga orientations. Kung may mga nakita rin kayong pwedeng i-improve, mag-message lang po kayo doon at i-improve po natin ang ating mga videos. Our purpose is to reach not just, of course, our administrators, but our teachers and our learners, more importantly, the parents who would like to see the documents in relation to gender and development. So, at present, we are also working with Philippine Normal University in the development of our GAD code for STO Marikina, and I understand first time pa lang itong gawin sa schools division office level, no, na magkaroon ng GAD code ang isang division level division office, no, ng Department of Education. Sa higher education like Philippine Normal University, they already have the GAD code, pero hindi lahat ng university sa buong Pilipinas ay meron na ng GAD code. Kakaunti pa lang ang meron. So for more related videos, in the future, we will have some interviews with our lawyer, Attorney Cebuano, to join us, one of the members of the GAD Focal Point System, para talakayin yung ating mga GAD-related laws, no, na binanggit ko sa inyo kanina. May konting discussion and question and answer part na pwede nyo ring gamitin sa inyong mga GAD-related activities sa inyong eskwelahan. So, let's proceed. I understand we have many invitations, not just in the public schools, but also in the private schools in relation to gender and development, because we encounter some issues, some gender needs, no? Gender issues, and there are mandates which have to be implemented in our schools, in our offices, or whatever that one is. So in the Department of Education, we have the following general observations and issues and concerns later that you will see. An example of that is here. There is a shift in gender patterns in the basic education indicators in the Philippines from 1996 to 2012. At kapag tingnan natin, dahil ito'y sinama nila dito sa document na ito, hanggang ngayon ay tinutugunan pa natin ang ganitong concern. Anong sabi dyan? Boys outnumbered girls at the elementary level, while at the secondary level, the opposite was true. The girls outnumbered boys in cohort survival and in the completion rate. That's according to NEDA and UNDP in 2014. Ang mahalaga po dito ay maintindihan natin kung ano yung cohort survival and completion rate. So as we continue, we need to understand what is meant by cohort survival rate. And of course, we understand in general what is completion rate. Naintindihan natin to, no? Pero yung cohort survival rate, ano ba ang ibig sabihin nito? So, from the meaning here, it says that it is the ratio of the number of students enrolling in a grade this year to the number of students that were in the earlier grade the previous year. So, when we talk about cohort survival rate, yung dati, for example, sa grade 1, meron ng 50 na nag-enroll. Tapos, pag tiningnan mo ngayon, halimbawa, tumuloy na sila sa grade 2, meron dyan ng 48. Ayan, na nakarating doon sa grade 2. Nasaan na yung dalawa? Yun ang hindi nag-survive. So, sa survival rate, dapat yung 50 doon sa grade 1 ay sana 50 pa rin doon sa grade 2, and so on. So, habang nalalagasan yan, ayan, bumababa, humihina yung survival rate bago sila mag-complete, bago makarating sa completion rate, whether that is in grade 6 or that is in grade 12. So, completion rate, sino yung nag-enroll sa grade 1 na nakarating ng grade 6 at graduate? They have completed. So, it says here that boys outnumbered girls at the elementary level, while at the secondary level, the opposite was true. The girls outnumbered boys in cohort survival and the completion rate. That's according to NEDA and UNDP in 2014. At hanggang sa ngayon ba, tingnan natin ang ating datos, no? Sa Department of Education, dahil hindi ito gaanong nagbago. Ang punto dyan, may mga nag-enroll na hindi na nag-survive. Hindi na nakasurvive hanggang grade 5, grade 6, hindi na rin nakapag-complete. Sa elementary, mas marami ang boys. Pero pagdating doon sa secondary, mas outnumbered na ang boys ng girls. Ang punto dyan, saan napupunta, anong nangyari doon sa mga hindi nakasurvive, sa hindi nag-complete. So if we are gender sensitive, base sa sex disaggregated data, that's why yung sex disaggregated data na hinihingi ng ating sa monitoring and evaluation, si Ma'am Doris Hasme, no, yung aking kaibigan dyan sa monitoring and evaluation. Sa reporting natin, hinihingi yung number of male and female sa mga reports. That's the sex disaggregated data. To check kung ilang mga kalalakihan, kababaihan, batang lalaki, batang babae, ang depende sa kung ano ang ating nire-report. Depende sa kung anong chine-check natin na performance ba yan, anong klaseng report ba yan, survival, cohort survival rate report ba yan, o kaya completion rate report ba yan, o ano bang klaseng report na sex disaggregated para makita natin kung natutugunan natin. Kasi kung maraming mga kalalakihan, for example, ang hindi nakaka-survive at hindi nakaka-complete, ang tanong dyan, anong nangyayari sa kanila? Saan sila mapupunta? Baka kasama sila dun later on sa makikita nating mga hold up sa jeep. No? Hindi natin sinasabing ganun ang mangyayari, but that's a possibility. Hindi sila makapagtapos. Ang ating purpose supposedly dito sa Department of Education na walang maiiwang bata at lahat ay ma-develop niya ang kanyang sarili, yung kanyang potential at maging contributor siya in building the nation for national development. That is our aim. Kaya dapat hindi tayo natutuwa kung may natatanggal yung ating mga estudyante, hindi sila nakapagpapatuloy, no? Natanggal na sa ating eskwelahan, whether that's in the private or in the public schools. Kasi dati, hindi natin siguro maintindihan, lalo na kapag siguro bagong guro at personal ang mga tingin sa mga bagay-bagay. Pag hindi natin gusto ang estudyante, mabuti pang mailipat o kaya mabuti lang hindi na nagtuloy sa klase at hindi mo na nakikita araw-araw. Pero of course, we have to understand them because that's part of their growth and development, no? At tayong mga guro ang mag-iintindi. Bakit? At the end of everything, supposedly, ang ating purpose ay silang lahat ay makasampa. All of them should survive to the next grade level and complete so that they could develop themselves, their potentials, and they could contribute meaningfully in building the nation. So if we are gender sensitive, ano ang sinasabi sa atin ng datos na yan? At kung gender responsive tayo, there should be a response, there should be an action. May proyekto ba tayong ginagawa? So sa atin sa public school ngayon, tinitingnan ang students at risk dyan, at risk of dropping out, yung mga medyo hindi gaanong nagpi-perform, yan ang dapat tinitingnan natin at scaffold na, tulungan na. Meron tayong mga proyekto dyan sa public school, pantay lingap, gabay kay Juan at Juana, mga ganong proyekto, at tinutulungan natin sila kahit doon sa mga education materials para tuloy-tuloy. Kahit ngayon online tayo, may mga education materials pa rin kakailanganin ng ating mga learners para gawin yung kanilang mga activities at picturean yung kanilang output, ano? At isend sa iba't ibang media platforms ba yan o kaya sa mga online delivery modalities natin na ginagamit for teaching and learning processes, no? Para mai-submit yung mga outputs ng mga learners at pantay lingap, gabay kay Juan or Juana at kung ano pa ang pwede nating ipangalan sa proyektong iyan para masiguro na kung sino dyan ang hindi masyado nagpi-perform, scaffold, matulungan para makasampa sa susunod na grade level, para makakomplete at lahat ay makapag-contribute sa pagbuo ng ating bansa. Yan ang ating purpose supposedly. Walang naiiwan. No one is left behind. So, now let's proceed to some of the gender issues in Philippine education. So, the Women's Empowerment Development and Gender Equality or Women's Edge Plan 2013 to 2016 Chapter 6 on Education, published by the Philippine Commission on Women or PCW, sum up the enduring gender issues in the Philippine education. Letter A, boys are underperforming in key education indicators compared to girls. So sabihin natin, wag lang doon sa cohort survival at saka sa completion rate. Doon na lang sa araw-araw na sitwasyon natin sa ating klase, whether that's online or whether yung dati pa tayo sa face-to-face. Sino dyan ang mga learners natin na hindi gaanong nagpi-perform? Tingnan natin sa datos. Marami ba ang kabataang lalaki o marami ang kabataang babae? Doon pa lang sa datos, sa sex-segregated data, kung tayo ay mga guro na gender sensitive, makikita natin, uy, bakit maraming kalalakihan dito ang batang lalaki ang hindi gaanong nagpi-perform, hindi gaanong interesado o hindi nakakagawa ng kanilang mga outputs, no? At hindi nagpi-perform masyado. Sabi ko nga, pagdating din halimbawa sa recognition day and graduation day, sa recognition, tingnan natin sino dyan ang may mga awards, sino may mga honors. Bilangin nyo sa inyong klase o sa kabuuan, sa eskwelahan. Ilan ba ang mas maraming nagpi-perform? Mga babae ba o mga lalaki? At ayon sa datos sa sex-segregated data, makikita natin kung sino dyan ang hindi gaanong nagpi-perform. Kung tayo ay gender sensitive, makikita natin yan. Kung tayo ay gender responsive, dapat nag-isip na tayo ng mga proyekto na pwedeng gawin para solusyonan yan. Anong mga possible activities? Marami. For example, kailangan din i-train ang mga teachers. How are you going to become gender sensitive and gender responsive in dealing with your learners who are not really performing that well in the class? See, we have to check on our data. Makikita natin yan. Kung dati hindi natin ginagawa dahil hindi naman tayo oriented masyado sa gender and development, dito pwede na natin gamitin ngayon, no? Kaya ang gender and development ay hindi lang usapin tungkol sa mga mabababaw na bagay. Ito ay pagbigay ng sapat na pagkakataon, ano? At atensyon para sa mga batang lalaki at para sa mga batang babae na pantay na makalinga natin. Pantay silang makatapos, pantay nilang maabot ang kanilang kinabukasan. Bakit lagi tayo nag-uusap tungkol sa equality, equality, equality? Ang iba nagre-react dito, no? Napaka-OA naman ng ating advocacy. Hindi po OA ang ating advocacy. Why? Very simple po. Half of the world population are women. And as such, they have to be represented. And as such, they have to be taken care of. And as such, they should participate in all, given equal opportunity, both men and women, no? And not only participate, but rather to benefit from their participation. Naalala ko lang yung datos na marami ang mga nagtatrabahong babae kaysa sa mga kalalakihan sa buong mundo. Pero alam nyo ba na maraming mga kababaihan ang mahirap? So anong ibig sabihin nun? Hasan ang gender equality doon? Kung mas maraming kababaihan ang nagtatrabaho, pero bakit marami ang kababaihang mahirap? Punto. Ibig ba sabihin nun may trabaho nga sila pero maring mababa ang posisyon, maliit ang sahod, ang benepisyong natatanggap? See? Hindi equal. No? Hindi equal ang pagtrato kahit na lang dun sa sweldo. No? Kaya nga ang sinasabi natin is we have to push for gender equality simply because men and women are half of the world's population. So they have to be represented and taken care of equally. Next, Indigenous Peoples, letter B, fall behind in enrollment data and experience discrimination. So especially sa mga provinces, sa mga lugar na marami tayong mga IPs, no? So, ang unang-una dyan, yung discrimination nandyan pa ba na dahil sila ay dahil sila ay mga IPs, no? Alam niyo naman at present marami ang mga discrimination pa rin nangyayari sa hitsura, sa gender, sa uri ng buhay. Mo na yan sila. Naku, hindi pwede yung ganon, no? Kailangan talagang tayong lahat ay mabigyan ng pagkakataon. At isa sa mga issue ay yung ating mga Indigenous Peoples ay pagdating sa enrollment, nako, at na-discriminate pa. So, wag naman ganon. We have to give equal opportunity for everybody. Hindi ko sasabihin dahil Filipino din sila, hindi. Dahil Filipino sila at karapatan nilang tawag nito, mabigyan ng tamang atensyon, ng parehong atensyon sa atensyon na katulad ng atensyon na binibigay sa atin at sa iba pang mga tao. Okay? So, kaya kapag hindi sila nakapag-enroll sa bahagi din ng ating, that's why we also collaborate with, for example, with the barangays para i-map kung ilan mga learners dyan at ilan ang hindi naka-enroll para maipasok natin sila sa mga iba't ibang pamamaraan, modalities natin ng pagkatuto para sila ay makapasok. We also have we also have ano pa ba ang ating mga ibang pamamaraan para sila maipasok sa pag-aaral lahat at walang maiwan. So letter C, higher education degrees manifest marked gender segregation. So sa pagpili ng kurso, for example, lalo na sa kolehiyo, pag pinag-usapan natin, for example, ang education, ano pa ang maraming pumipili dyan? Mga kababaihan, kalalakihan, no, sa education. Sa nursing, kababaihan, kalalakihan. Sa abogasya, ayan, mukhang dyan, mag-iiba na, no? Kung sa education, kung sa health ay more or less represented ang male and female, pagdating halimbawa sa law, nag-iiba, mas marami ang lalaki dyan. Pagdating halimbawa sa police, no? Mag-iiba rin. Pagdating sa military, mag-iiba rin. Pagdating sa pagiging piloto, ayan, mag-iiba rin ang datos dyan. Bakit? Ano bang mga dahilan? So, i-research natin. Pero isa ba sa mga posibleng dahilan ay hindi pa tayo nakaalis doon sa pag-iisip na meron pa ring gender segregation pagdating sa mga pagpili ng kurso? Kaya makikita natin sa bahagi ng management ng eskwelahan, lalo na halimbawa sa guidance office, pwede nating isama ito sa ating mga activities sa inyong guidance program na mag-advocate tayo na open ang mga courses na yan dapat, no? Kung hindi man open, halimbawa at present, kahit sa government, we have to advocate on that so that everybody will be given a chance. Pero at present, yung mga binanggit ko naman ay bukas sa mga kababaihan at mga kalalakihan. So, pero kung hindi pa bukas ang isipan, halimbawa ng mga magulang at saka ng mga mag-aaral, tayo sa guidance office ay pwedeng isama yan sa ating guidance program para i-advocate na ang iba't ibang mga kurso na yon ay bukas na para sa mga kababaihan at kalalakihan at pwede silang mag-enroll kung saan at ano ang kanilang gusto. Halimbawa, sa welding, sa driving, may pinipili pa bang gender dyan? Ayan. Pagluluto, sa pananahi, no? Sa pagugupit, sa pagpapaganda, ano pa ba? O sa negosyo, sa iba't ibang klaseng mga kurso na meron tayo. Ayan. Sa politika, in politics, women have to be represented. And the different sectors of society supposedly, para may boses. At hindi lang kung sino at iilan ang naririnig ang boses at nasusunod sa lipunan. At napapabayaan ng ilan. Bakit? Wala namang representative. Meron mang representative, isa, dalawa, tatlo, hindi sapat ang numero. Pagdating sa botohan, we understand, number is a power. It's a force that we have to reckon with. Kasi kapag wala tayong enough number, maaari tayong matalo. That's why we have to be equally represented supposedly, both male and female, and the different sectors of the Philippine society. Next, gender biases and stereotypes remain and are still embedded in the curricula, instructional methods, materials, and learning media. Before I remember, meron dyan ng nabasa akong tula. Ang mga kababaihan ay pinoportray na nagsisimbolo ng kagandahan, pero nagsisimbolo din ng kahinaan. Wala na tayo doon sa ganong klaseng pag-iisip at present. No? Ang babae at lalaki, pwedeng may kalakasan yan, pwede ring may kahinaan yan. Pero wag naman nating sabihin na kapag babae ay mahina o kapag lalaki ay malakas. Dahil pwedeng mangyari yun, vice versa. Ang sinasabi natin, ang babae o lalaki ay pwedeng maging malakas, pwede ring may maging mahina, at pwedeng tulungan para maging malakas, mag-perform, maging maayos, no? So, what else? Instructional methods. Meron pa dyan, pag halimbawa, ang nagluluto sa bahay, sinong nagluluto? Babae ba, lalaki, nanay, tatay, kuya, ate? O, parang it appears na kailangan pa ng matres ng mga kalalakihan para makapagluto, para makapaglaba, para hindi na ganoon ang sitwasyon ngayon. Alam nyo, sa totoo lang, habang ako yung nag-iisa sa bahay, nakita ko gaano kahirap ang trabaho ng mga kababaihan. The whole day, no? Na usually hindi naman binabayaran at hindi binibilang. Pag ang mga kababaihan ay nasa bahay, walang trabaho, iba ang trato. Sa mga meron syempre ng trabaho at kumikita ng pera. Dahil sa panahon ngayon, alam naman natin, economic power. Kung sinong may pera, yun minsan ang nambubuli sa wala o nagpaparamdam na excuse me. But we have to remember that both of us are actually contributing. Isipin nyo na lang kung walang naglalaba, naglilinis, nagluluto, nagayos ang bahay, what will happen to the Philippine society? Huwag ng Philippine society agad sa bahay ninyo. What will happen? It's also a disaster. What's my point? That's why we have to learn how to value the contribution of men and women. At present, of course, because we are advocating dahil wala pa nga ganong pantay na pananaw, we are advocating to value the work of women and the other genders, for example, and to give an equal opportunity and value for their contributions. So, what else? Materials. Pagdating ba sa mga materials, sa mga aklat natin, kaya sa pag-develop ng ating mga modules at present, we are ensuring that they are gender sensitive or gender responsive or gender sensitive. Hindi yung kapag mga negosyante, mga lalaki ang nasa drawing, nasa illustration. Pag mga politiko, pag mga makapangyarihang tao, pero pag mga secretary, mga babae, naglalaba, naglilinis, nagbubunot, wala na tayo sa ganong klaseng pag-iisip. And at this time, while I'm mentioning this one, we are now talking about integrating this one in the curriculum. No? Integrating this one in the curriculum. Learning media, no? Iba pang mga pamamaraan. O halimbawa, when we talk about social media o kaya sa mass media, ayan, sa television, sa radio, sa print, halimbawa, ano ba ang portrayal ng mga kababaihan doon at ng ibang gender? Are we portraying them in a manner that there is respect? There is an equal respect for everybody? Or, naalala ko nga, pagdating sa paglalaba, pagdating sa pagbubunot ng sahig, sa mga patalastas, doon may mga patalastas na ngayon, na mga lalaki ang naglalaba, no? Very nice, no? Pero may mga patalastas pa rin, lalo na sa radyo, maririnig mo, mga nanay ang tinutukoy pagdating sa pagbubunot ng sahig, paglalaba. Pwede namang magtulungan. At sa totoong buhay, ganun na nga ang nangyayari. Ang mga kalalakihan, kababaihan, marunong magluto, maglaba, mamalengke. Pero minsan, kung ilalagay pa natin yan sa ating pagtuturo sa klase, na ang naglalaba, ang nagluluto, andyan yung mga gender roles, ay we are perpetuating that kind of stereotyping. Kapag babae ka, ganito. Kapag lalaki ka, ganito. And what I'm saying is, umaalis na tayo sa ganyang klase ng frame of mind. We are now shifting from that kind of frame of mind to a frame of mind that is gender equal in terms of opportunity, in terms of how people should do activities in a society. So, kung dati ganyan pa tayo mag-isip, ayan, sa ating mga pagtuturo, no? Sa ating mga sa klase, yan ang ituro natin sa mga bata ngayon. Naalala ko lang, may mga pinag-usapan, nakakarating sa amin minsan na report na halimbawa sa technology and livelihood education, ano pa ba sa elementary, ano ang tawag dyan? Andyan yung mga roles ng mga nanay, ni kuya, ni ate. We have to be very careful about that, no? Kasi nagbabago na ang panahon. Halimbawa, meron ng instance doon na kung sino ang namamalengke at ang gustong sagot ay si nanay, may isang bata na wala naman dito ang nanay, nasa ibang bansa, ang tatay ang namamalengke. So yung kanyang sinagot ay yung tatay sa kanila ang namamalengke, at pag-check ng papel ay mali dahil ang sagot pala ay dapat ang mother ang namamalengke. Hindi na ganyan ang sitwasyon ngayon, at hindi na ganyan ang dapat tinuturo natin yung mga gender roles ngayon. Maaring yung aking binabanggit dito ay hindi pa tangkap sa ilan, but that is gender and development. That is gender equality. That is participation. Equal participation is all about. We are actually challenging that setup. Kung meron pa ng ganyan hanggang sa ngayon, we are challenging that setup that supposedly ang mga kababaihan at kalalakihan ay nagtutulungan at mabigyan ng pagkakataon at umiiwas na tayo. I mean, we are now shifting from yung mga gender roles na yan and gender biases practices in the society. Okay? Now, letter E, women and girls continue to be vulnerable to sexual harassment and violence inside schools. Pero sa mga susunod na mga slides na babanggitin, kung makikita ninyo, marami pala mga issues din halimbawa sa LGBT. Okay? Now, in the 2016 National Baseline Study on the Violence Against Children by the Council for the Welfare and the Systematic Literature Review on the drivers of violence affecting children by the United Nations Fund or the UNICEF, it shows that, letter A, there is a high prevalence of violence against children among both boys and girls, and increasingly, more boys are becoming victims of sexual abuse than girls. Meron ba kayong mga cases na ganyan sa inyong eskwelahan, sa inyong community, o sa DSWD for example? Ganito ba ang nangyayari? And ganito ba ang datos na lumalabas? Anong mga proyekto ang pwede nating gawin aside from the advocacy, no? Aside from the orientations, the trainings on social awareness on these issues, and then mga proyekto na pwedeng gawin to respond to these issues and concerns. Next, letter B, sexual harassment is the most frequent form of violence, with the girls being particularly vulnerable. But, it says here, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender or the LGBTQ. Ayan, sabi nila, ano pa ang LGBT? Kasi meron dito LGBT lang, LGBTQIA. So, meron tayong tinatawag na queer, intersex, and A. So, for letter B, it says here that sexual harassment is the most frequent form of violence, with the girls being particularly vulnerable. But lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, and of course this one is expanded to Q&A and more probably to represent other groups which are being limited by those letters, by those acronyms. Aside from LGBT, we have Q for queer, we have I for intersex, and we have A for asexual. So what are the meanings of those terminologies? Probably we will discuss later. So LGBT youth are also at risk of sexual violence committed by their peers, no? And then letter C, LGBT children are at higher risk for physical and psychological bullying. So sa eskwelahan ba ay kapag may nakikita tayong mga bata na medyo malambot ang galaw or members halimbawa ng LGBT, how are they being treated? May nangungutya pa ba? May nambubuli pa ba because of that reason? No? So bawal 'yun, ano? Bawal na bawal. Pero marami pa ang nangyayari, hindi lang sa eskwelahan, kahit sa labas. At yung mga bagong batas nga, halimbawa yung Safe Spaces Act, ay yung Republic Act 11313 ay ina-address po yung ganyang concern. Sa Marikina, I remember meron tayong No Discrimination Ordinance. And thank you very much, Mayor Marcy, for signing that ordinance na dapat ay hindi nabubuli, hindi nadidiscriminate ang sino man ayon sa kanyang gender. No, maging sa trabaho man 'yan, maging sa pagtrato man 'yan sa bahay, sa lipunan, sa komunidad o kung saan man. Okay? Now, letter D, despite the high prevalence of violence, disclosures are reported to low. However, teachers are the most common persons children disclose to and sought help from. As such, teachers and school personnel need to have appreciation and understanding of children's rights. So, September, if I'm not mistaken, sa ating monthly advocacies, no, ay meron tayo ng Children's Month. So, we will be talking about the rights of children. So, basically, ano po ang mga monthly advocacies natin? Banggitin ko na rin dito na sana meron tayong mga activities in relation to these advocacies. For example, sa March, that's Women's Month. And then sa June, we have the LGBT Month, Pride Month natin. And then for August, that's Breastfeeding Month. For September, that's Children's Month. For October, that is Peace Education Month. For November, that's 18-day campaign to end violence against women. And of course, by December, we have the Human Rights Month. We also celebrate there the International Human Rights Day, and usually we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights document during that time. Sa letter D, gusto kong i-share sa inyo, I remember merong isang estudyanteng lumapit sa akin actually, no, doon sa guidance when I was still in the guidance office, at nagkwento siya na siya ay molested ng kanyang tatay from grade 5 to grade 8. Can you imagine? Anong sinasabi dyan? As such, teachers and school personnel need to have appreciation and understanding of children's rights. At kasabay din dito, it's imperative na kailangan nating magkaroon ng tenga at puso sa ating mga learners, na atin silang maramdaman, mapakinggan, mabigyan ng atensyon. Kasi kalimitan, hindi yan mag-u-open sa atin ng kanilang sitwasyon kapag hindi bukas yung ating channel, yung ating door sa ating mga kabataan, at hindi tayo trusted. Lalo na sa panahon ngayon, kung wala ng mga tao na bukas ang kanilang tenga at puso upang makinig sa mga kwento at nararanasan ng ibang tao, ng hinaing ng ibang tao. So, medyo mahirap ang sitwasyon. That's why for us teachers, aside from we are facilitators of learning, we are also guidance advocates, no? And then aside from that, tayo rin ay dapat marunong makinig at may puso para sa ating mga anak. After all, hindi naman tayo puro turo ng turo lang, but we advocate holistic education.